All right, our family. All right, welcome to Speaker Success in the Morning. Today is September 5th, Friday, 2025. Great day to be alive. And y'all, just so excited this morning. And no other way can we kick off the day, kick off the show. We're just gonna go ahead and dive straight from the source because the best way to kick off the show today is by giving you a word this morning. And we're gonna be in the book of Jonah chapter 1 this morning. And then we're going to start with verse 1. Just going to work our way down a little bit because there's so much here in this text. And we're going to go ahead and get into it today. All right. So verse 1 reads, "The word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry out against it, because their wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So he went down to Joppa, found a ship that was going to Tarshish, paid the fare, and boarded it to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. However, the Lord hurled a great wind on the sea, and there was a great storm on the sea, so that the ship was about to break up. Then the sailors became afraid, and every man cried out to his God, and they hurled the cargo which was in the ship into the sea to lighten it for them. But Jonah had gone below into the stern of the ship and had laid down and had fallen sound asleep. I'm just going to read verse 6 as well. So the captain approached him and said, "How is it that you are sleeping? Get up, call on your God. Perhaps your God will be concerned about us so that we will not perish." And as you all may be familiar with the story of Jonah, then later in the text, he is swallowed by a large fish. Many people call it a whale, but the text doesn't tell us that. The text just says he was swallowed up by a large fish. And one thing that I want us to identify here in the text or talk through in the text is this story is all about Jonah's disobedience. We have a whole book of Jonah all based on his own disobedience. Him having a call on his life and God calling to him, or God calling him to a purpose, right? Because he was meant to go to Nineveh, right? Is was what it says in verse 2, to where he was meant to preach the gospel and he was to speak to people, because ultimately Jonah is a who? Prophet. So therefore, if he's meant to go and share the gospel to help save others and help others become delivered, but he doesn't do his assignment, then what happens? Those people may or may not be delivered, right? So that's what we see here in the text. But then the other part that I want to I want to bring to your attention is, have you ever been asked, or have you been ever been told to do something, but at the end of the day you just didn't want to do it, right? Your selfishness didn't allow you to want to do this thing or that thing. Because I know I've been there, right? Because but there are days to where you're tired. There's days to where you're frustrated. There's days to where you don't have the energy. There's days to where you're just like, man, I'm not feeling this today. I'm not feeling this right now. I see those people over there. I know I can help them, but I don't want to do it. I'm passing by this gentleman on the highway. I could give him a couple dollars, but nah, not today. I'm gonna do the complete opposite thing. Even though, just like we've talked about here before on Straight from the Source, even though it's been laid on your heart, you have the ability to help them. And you feel bent towards that person, like, oh, I should help them. I can help them. I want to help them. But you're like, nah. That's what Jonah's doing here in the text, right? Because he goes the complete opposite way. And one thing we also know is that it said that he paid the fare. Verse 3 says he paid the fare and boarded to go to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. Have you ever thought that when you do something that you're not supposed to do, or have you ever thought when you do something opposite to the calling, have you ever thought how much it's going to cost you? Right? So Jonah was meant to go somewhere else, but then he comes out his pocket and then he pays to go in a complete opposite direction. That's one. And then we get down later in the text, And then it says in verse 4, there was a great storm on the sea because the Lord created the storm. If God wants you to do something, and just like the Bible tells us that he who began a good work in us will see it to completion, if he's trying to create something different out of you, he's trying to manufacture a better version of you, a greater version of you. How else is that supposed to happen if we don't have adversity? How else is that supposed to happen if we don't have challenge? But then take it a step further. If we're going against the grain, now it's going to be even more difficult, even harder. But verse 5 says, then the sailors became afraid, and the man cried out. So look, all because of Jonah's wrongdoing, now what's happening is that Jonah not only put himself in danger, but he put everybody else around him in danger. So think about that, right? And this is why I started off saying his selfishness, because Jonah is willing to sacrifice everybody else in the ship because of him not wanting to do what he's called and what he's meant to do. Y'all, for some of us on this stream today, your story and your pain is ultimately a prescription for somebody else's journey. Like your pain is a prescription for somebody else's story, right? And if you share that pain, you're going to help somebody be able to navigate through life, through certain challenges, through certain journeys. But if you do like Jonah, you go to the bottom of the ship, you hide, you run away, then how else are people going to be able to navigate through life? They're going to also have to go the hard way, right? Because your story at the end of the day is a prescription for somebody else's pain. So today, y'all, I wanted to share this, and I wanted to let you know that we don't want to be like Jonah in the beginning part of this chapter, right? We don't want to flee from the call of God because it's only going to make life harder, more challenging, and more difficult when we have the opportunity to be able to do things right the first time. We have the opportunity to be able to do things the way that God called us to, and the way that He wanted us to navigate through. So let's be obedient to the call of the Lord, so that we won't put ourselves in harm's way. Neither will we put others. All right, family, that's been straight from the source. And remember, if you're enjoying this content, be sure to hit those thumbs up buttons, and also make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you never miss an episode. We'll be taking a quick commercial break and be right back here on Speak Your Success in the Morning.